Well, welcome to another episode of The Minority Voice. I'm your host, Jeff Vega, and I hope and I trust that you had a wonderful Father's Day yesterday. And as we look towards this new week, I'm actually excited about this episode because, as things have been going on, and I know a lot of people are discouraged and they feel overwhelmed on everything that's happening, but I want you to know that there are people fighting back now. And though we have a long way to go, trust me, we've laid back too long and let the progressives, overrun our country, that, it's going to take a minute to get it back. But I came across an article the other day, and I want to share it with you. It's kind of a roadmap on how we take America back for Americans. And I'm not going to tell you who the author is, but I will tell you where you can find it. If you go to Real Clear Politics, you'll find the article there. And this individual puts out 7 points on how we can win back America. And we're going to go over those real quick here. And understand in the culture, whether it's been in politics or in the education system, we have really dropped the ball. We've been disengaged, and we've just let those that we put in charge act, basically, and they didn't act in our best interest. And as a result, this is why we're at today. But let me start with this. The very first one that is mentioned, it starts off and says, here are the reforms that every concerned parent in America should be demanding. First, every state legislator should pass a ban on taxpayer dollars going to any school district or workplace that teaches critical race theory, which inherently violates existing anti-discrimination laws. Florida, Texas, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and other states have already taken steps to pass such laws. It needs to happen everywhere, and Congress should seek to institute a federal ban throughout legislation as well. Folks, it's time that we step up and hold our election officials accountable. And whether it's at your state level, with your state reps, state senators, school boards, we need to get engaged, and we need to let them know that we want no part of any curriculum that teaches discrimination, okay, or favoritism of any group. And the one way you find out is you reach out to your elected officials and ask them where they stand. And that's something we haven't done. And even as low as school boards, which this is where it's being implemented, we need to call them out and find out where they stand on these issues. And if they're in favor of these discriminatory rules and regulations and teachings, then what we need to do is put it out there on social media and let our circle of friends know that all these elected officials stand, so you can begin to take them out. And I'm only meaning out of office, so no violence here. Second thing, each state should create its own 1776 commission to examine the public schools curriculum and ensure that students are receiving a patriotic, pro-American education, not being taught that the United States is an evil nation. And I tell you, there is where really our problem begins, because, I love this country. It's scars and all. I love it. And if you don't love America, now we have a problem. And you know what? I don't want to hear about all the ills of our nation as far as why you hate our country, because you know what? We all have scars. And I'm not saying we don't discuss them and we don't put it out there, but the reality is, my friends, if you don't love this country, you're never going to be able to overcome anything that has happened in the past. So, but there's where we need to do, and we need to honestly look at our nation and our history. And you know, that being said, one of the things that kind of bother me is, you know, I'm a history buff, and I actually happen to know a lot about history from the black perspective in the sense of their accomplishments. I'm not into black history because you know what? At the end of the day, my friends, it's American history. And that's one of the things that they've done is they've separated. And in reality, my friends, it's American history. It's not black history. It's American history. Okay, just like there's not Mexican history in America or Chinese. No, it's all American history because we've come here as Americans and we've contributed. So just keep that in mind. Third thing, it says, parents have a right to know exactly what is being taught to our children. Last year, many parents had the chance to routinely listen in on classes for the first time because of remote learning. As students returned to the classroom, states needed to pass laws requiring that all lesson plans have to be made available to parents. Every handout, article, and reading should be posted on an online portal that allows parents to see what their children are being taught. Furthermore, in many places, there are rules preventing students from recording what teachers say in class. States and school boards should establish a right to record. You know, friends, and this is what now is getting the left, the progressive, in an uproar. Because you know what? Parents were watching, and parents have realized and discovered what is going on, and now they're stepping up and speaking out. And you know, when I was on school board, one of the things that I suggested to the board is that we let our kids use their phones in schools. And man, you would have thought there was a herd of elephants coming through the room, because it was like, how could you? No way, yada yada yada. But you know, I'm progressive enough to realize my generation and this new generation, my kids' generation, they're in a different environment. Their phones are an extension, and used properly, it's a wealth of information for them. Now, of course, you know, we were taught memorization, so that's why we know things as we do, and we remember. And with these kids, man, they can pull it up, you know, in an instant. Isn't that right, David? As he's sitting there looking on his phone, observing things. But you know what? I think now, with all that's going on, and you've had to see many videos of teachers doing different things to their students and calling them out. We should have that. Just like, you know, with the police, now they have body cams. Maybe we should stick a cell phone in the back of the class and record it, have it recording, just to make sure to keep not only the students, but the teachers in line. And they, you know, they have it on school buses, so why not there? Because the reality is we need to know what's going on in our classrooms and what our teachers are teaching. Because you've even heard a few teachers say that, yeah, they're going to prohibit me from teaching critical race theory, but I'm going to do it anyways. So that's another suggestion he makes here. Then it says here that, where was that? Dave, I'm on 3 or 4. Okay, you don't know. You're not paying attention. 4th, parents need to organize locally in every school district in America to eliminate action civics and other versions of the efforts to control traditional civics education into a vehicle of political indoctrination. The left's new argument is that our division stems from a lack of civil education, a problem that intended to fix with a lot of new taxpayer money and redefinitions our civics into schools just as they are trying to refine the meanings of infrastructure. Right now, Congress is working on a $1 billion bill known as the Civic Security Act. No Republican should trust the Biden administration with $1 billion to spend on such programs. Even worse, the legislation threatens to establish a de facto national curriculum for history and civics, effectively bribing states into adopting the left's anti-American curriculum. It is a Common Core all over again, and we know about Common Core, right, folks? That was big when I was a school board member years ago. But much of more extreme, and like Common Core, parents must unite to stop this new federal power grab. And it's been of my belief that the federal government needs to get out of education. We don't need it in our individual states, because the reality, folks, is what is needed in California is not necessarily needed in Michigan. And what's needed in Michigan is not necessarily needed in South Carolina or Florida or Texas. You know, we have different agricultural business climates, and we should be teaching for our students. And once again, really what this is about, as this article is talking about, is parents have to organize and take charge. Fifth thing, any parent who objects to the material being taught to their children in public schools should get an automatic voucher empowering them to pick another school of their choice. The government has no right to brainwash students with their controversial ideologies against the parents' will. You know, I've been a proponent of school of choice. The money follows the student, because the reality is, friends, the education system is a cash cow. It's an industry in itself, and those that are in charge do not want to let that go, that big purse of money, if you will. And the ones who actually suffer are the students. And when, you know, look across your state. Well, let's take Michigan, because we're in Michigan. Some of your least effective districts are in urban areas. And yet, a lot of them have the most per student dollars going there. Yet, they don't receive the bang for their buck that they're getting. And those parents and those students should have a right to go to a school of their choice. And I will tell you, in my county, it seems like we have a charter school on every block. And they also cater to the different style of teaching. And whether you're a hands-on or you're into the books, it's there for you. Or if you want a biblical type education, it's there. So, but it's not for in some of the other areas. So I think, you know, if a parent has an objection to what's being taught, they should have a right. Because here it is, it's taxpayer money. So they should have a right to have that. Sixth, states need to take back control of their schools of education and their credentialing the bodies to ensure that they are not turning out teachers. To be clear, the overwhelming majority of our nation's teachers are some of the most selfless and wonderful people there are. But regrettably, many have graduated from extremely biased education schools and may not even be aware of the degree to which left ideology has permeated their curriculum. States should set up alternative credentialing bodies that can certify great teachers who know how to instill a sense of love of America. Schools distinguished can then make it a priority to hire teachers with these certificates, especially for English, history, and social studies roles. States could even set up their own versions of Teach for America, to get passionate and patriotic people into the classroom. Folks, yeah, there are great teachers out there. And it seems like the young ones are the ones who come in with all the passion and the desire to make the changes. But as they get into the system, they realize in order to raise their income, if you will, they need to do certain things, and they need to get into the system of how it works. And as a result, ultimately some lose their way, and then they become indoctrinated into the education culture, if you will. So finally, he says here, states need to break the tenure monopoly in public K through 12 schools. Tenure was originally supposed to protect competent teachers from being subjected to undue political influence. It has turned into a mechanism to protect incompetent teachers who themselves wield undue political influence over our children. Educators who are alienating children from their own country should not be protected with lifelong tenure. They should be liberated to pursue a career as a political activist. Now, I know that one is just now. If you're a teacher, then a firestorm is brewing right now over that to get rid of tenure. But you know what? Here's a reality. If you're out in the real world, you're working a construction job and you're working the other jobs. If you don't produce, guess what happens, my friends? You don't have a job. But in the education system, you get tenure, they can never let you go. And take colleges, for example. You go to college now, and you're going to come out, you being hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Meanwhile, these professors, they're making buku bucks. For what? And, that's something that we're going to have to realize that we have to break, because there are bad teachers, bottom line, and they shouldn't have it. Anyways, as I said to you, that really this entails us getting engaged with our local politics, whether it's school, education, the political realm. We need to be that. We need to be engaged and involved. When we do, then things will be turned. But if we don't, they'll continue to press. And until we meet next time, Joshua 24:15.